everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So it is the start of market season, and some of you probably have already started your markets, while others like me are waiting to get accepted to our first one for the season. Now, I did get accepted to one, and it is going to be in May, and I'm still looking for others to sign up to, which might be in other states. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see how that goes. But I figured that I would do a video that talks about what I learned last year, because last year was my first full year, not only in business, but also doing markets throughout the year. And I figured I'd share what I learned last year with some of you who may be starting to go into the market space for the very first time with your small business. Now, I loved doing markets last year. It was both scary and exciting for me. And I want to say scary because, of course, it was my first time ever doing markets. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't even think any of my products would sell. And I just realized I said I didn't even think, but that's okay. I didn't think any of my products would sell, but it was exciting because once I finally got into that market space, I met new people. I was able to interact with folks. I got some great feedback from people who not only purchased from me, but also were just there to sample my products or smell them. And most importantly, I did manage to get over that hump, and I was able to sell my products for the first time ever. Now, I know it can feel overwhelming because you are a new small business owner. You've never done a market before in your life. Your products are finally ready to go, and you probably don't know where to start or what to do in the very beginning. I definitely know that in the very beginning, I didn't know where to go. I knew the markets were out there. I knew the pop-up events were out there. I had seen them here and there walking on the streets, but I never really attended any of them, and I didn't know what any of the names were, none of the event coordinators. I didn't know anything going in for the very first time. So of course, the first thing I did was I went on to social media and started to do a search for myself. Now, I went on Instagram first. That was the first one that I did. And I simply did a search, and I put in a search pop-up event or a vendor market or a vendor event. And then I put my city behind it because I knew it was going to bring up every single post that was tagged with a pop-up or market hashtag. And then I just took time throughout my day and I just scrolled through a couple of them. And then once I found a post that looked interesting, I just looked for whatever could lead me to the actual event and lead me towards signing up for it. And that's where reels come in real handy, because reels show you firsthand, give you like a visual of what these events look like. So if they look interesting to you, if they have a lot of people there, then of course you're going to want to find out more about it. So make sure to always look through the reels as well and not just the photo. And of course, if you want to head over to Facebook, Facebook has a ton of groups that you can sign up for. They pretty much advertise when the sign up is. People can come in and promote their own events and stuff. So Facebook groups are a good way to find those markets that aren't advertised in big bold letters in newspapers. But I will say about Facebook and even Instagram, you have to really be careful and watch out for scammers, because they will post something that looks too good to be true. And I say trust your instinct on that. If it's too good to be true, then it probably is. But it's always good to do your research, reach out to the people, see if other people have done their pop-ups or their markets, and go from there. Now, the other thing I checked out, and I don't really hear a lot of people talk about it or mention it, is Eventbrite. Now, for those of you that don't know, Eventbrite is a website that has a bunch of meetups, a bunch of events both free and paid, that go around your city, around your town, around your state. And you could go on there and you could find different events that are going on. I typed in New York City pop-up events in the search, and it just gave me a couple of things in there that listed some of the events that's going on. And then that way, once you find events that look like they take vendors, then you could go ahead and reach out to them through either Eventbrite or find them on social media, because a lot of the coordinators on there post their information, their contact information for you. And once you find some markets or pop-up events on there, or even craft shows on there, I suggest going to those events first. Get a feel of what it's like to be there. See if this is the right space for you and your product, and yeah, just enjoy the moment as an attendee. That way you can scan the event and get an idea of what the event is really like. Maybe speak to some of the vendors there. If you run into the coordinator of the event, then speak to them about it. It's a good way to get yourself into the space of markets and how they run and how they maneuver. So once I found the markets that I wanted to possibly try, I made a list of all of them, because this is my target list of markets that I feel that my product would do good in those markets. So I made a list just so I know, okay, these are the markets I want to target. Let me go ahead and do further research on them as to how I can get into those markets. Now that you have your targeted list, and I'm sure it is a ton of different markets on there, different pop-ups and craft shows on there, I say before you apply for your first market to set a budget for your vendor fees, and this is going to be your budget that you're going to carry throughout the entire market season. And the reason why I say set a budget is because this budget is going to now take the weight off of your shoulders, make you feel less overwhelmed, because it's going to weed out those expensive markets that are on your list. And you want to not overwhelm your pockets, because maybe your budget really can't fit that. So instead of trying to make room for this market with all this money for the vendor fee, try aiming for the ones that fall into your budget for the first year. Now, unfortunately for me, I live in one of the most expensive cities, and there are no vendor fees that are less than, I want to say, $125. If it is, then it's small pop-up events, and those you have to really research and make sure that they're not scams by any means. So my budget for this year, last year it was between $125 and $160, and this year, because things are going up and there's a lot of uncertainty for whatever reasons in the market, the price, my budget has gone up to $180. So anything that falls into the realm of that, then I'm open to do those markets, and that knocks off still a lot of the expensive ones that I would like to try but I can't afford. Now, I wouldn't completely put the expensive markets and events off your list. I would hold on to those for something to aim for later down the road. So these can be your long-term goals to aim for. Once you start making a little money with your business, and you can set aside money just to do that market one year. So I would use those expensive markets for that long-term goal. Now for me, I do have those markets, those expensive markets, on my list for later on down the road. I put them in my business plan, and they are something that I want to aim for once I get up and running and more established and people know me better. So now that you have your budget and you have your list, you want to make a universal list of questions. And these are general questions that you are going to ask every single coordinator, every single planner, so that you can get a better understanding of the market that you want to participate in, and so that you can plan accordingly to those markets. Now, some of the questions that I asked when I first started out was, of course, what is the vendor's fee, and that's only if it's not listed on the website itself. The other question I asked was, what is the traffic flow like for the event? Another question I asked, which I felt was important, was how long have they been doing the event or running the event, meaning in terms of years. Another question that I also think is very key to understanding and knowing as a vendor is, how do they advertise the event? Do they do it through social media alone? Do they rely on the vendors themselves? Do they have newspaper ads, word of mouth? How do they advertise the event to get the people to the event? And you can also ask some of the vendors there, whether it be through social media, if you can find them, or through the event, going to the event yourself and getting a feel of what the event is actually like. Alright, so now you have your market and you're all set and been accepted. You really want to go out there and get your main essentials, and that would be a tablecloth for the table at the market. I went on Amazon. I got me 2 different sizes of tablecloths. One was a 6 foot and one was an 8 foot. But you really don't have to get 2. You could get a 6 foot, depending on the table, of course. But you could get a 6 foot tablecloth. That is the standard for market. You want to also get display racks or displays for advertising and showcasing your products on your table. There are places like Michael's, there is also Home Depot, there are Walmart and other stores, that Amazon, of course, again, that have racks for you to go ahead and display your products depending on what your products are. And then also you want to get storage bins. Now, when I first started out, I'm of course selling candles. I took my candle boxes with me with my candles, and I had about 12 boxes with me. I ended up going on Amazon and I found these storage bins that are great. They work out great for me, and I use them to transport my products every single time I go to the market. So storage bins are a huge lifesaver in compacting all your stuff into one space. That way you're not carrying boxes upon boxes. And then speaking of carrying boxes upon boxes, you definitely want to get yourself a wagon. I don't care if you're driving or if you're taking public transportation. A wagon is very helpful. You get to put everything all into one space if you can, and just roll it on into the event. I got my first wagon from Home Depot, just a regular standard heavy duty wagon that carries up to 150 pounds. And then later on in the year, I ended up getting a much bigger, more heavy dutier, if that's a word, wagon that carries up to 225 pounds. I ended up getting those wagons because I do not have the strength to carry everything with me. Now, if you notice, I didn't say tables or chairs or tents, and I'm gonna tell you why. It is, for some reason, in us when we first start out to buy all of this stuff all at once and not think about budgeting and if we have the money. Now, yes, these are long-term investments, but if you could get away with using the event's tables and chairs and tents, then I say go ahead and do it. So now that is all the market stuff. The other part of vending at a market is making sure that your brand, your small business, your products are ready to go. So that could be making sure you have enough business cards, because people will pick up business cards for later, even if they don't purchase from you, and you can also hand the business cards out to those who purchase. Packaging is another thing, and it depends on your product and your signage. Please make sure you have signage so that people know who you are, who they're buying from, and how they can get in contact with you once they leave the market. Now, the signage could be a little sign on the table. It can also be a sign that's behind you on the tent, or it could be a table runner like I have on my table that tells you what and who you're buying from. And if you want to do optional things, you can offer free stickers, free samples of your products for people that go by. I know on my table I offer free wax melt samples. They're 1 ounce about like that big 1 ounce samples. Well, the container is, the cube is a lot smaller, but they're 1 ounce samples that I offer on the table, and it also has my information on the label inside. So that is something that you can offer to people when they're just strolling on by and looking at your table as they browse. Now here comes the question that everyone has, including me. I had this same question, and it is, how much inventory do you pack for the market? And I am going to be 100% honest with you. There is no answer. There is no answer. There is no set in stone answer as to how much inventory you should bring to your first market. However, I will say, do not bring all of your inventory with you, because let's be realistic, you're not going to sell every single piece of your inventory. So I would definitely advise not to bring every single item that you have made and you have stored in your apartment or your home with you for your first market. Now, as doom and gloom as that all sounds, don't worry, there are ways to figure out how much inventory you should bring to your first ever market. Now, when I did it, I did 2 different ways of trying to figure it out, and this isn't something that's set in stone either. It's just something that off the top of my head I tried, and it actually worked more so towards the end than it did in my beginning stages of doing markets. So I'm going to share 2 quick examples with you right now. So the first one I did was, I would try to aim for the middle, and I'm going to tell you what I mean by the middle. For example, if you have a total of 60 items in your inventory, that means 10 each of each product, and I sell 6 of them for my business, then I would aim to take 30 items in total, and that would be 5 each of my 6 items. Now the second option was, I would take a small amount of items, and I'm going to give you an example. For example, if I have 120 items in my home inventory and I sell 12 items for my business, then I'll take 3 of each item. But I say don't worry about getting the inventory right for your first market, because they'll come over time as you do more and more markets. And especially if you do that exact same market over and over again, you'll start to get an idea of the traffic and the flow and how well your product does within that market. Alright, so now that the products are done and now that you figured out your inventory, the thing that I loved doing and was excited for was researching and staging how my vendor table was going to look at the market itself. And let me tell you that Pinterest is going to be your absolute best friend. I am actually using Pinterest now to research how I can elevate my table for this year. There are so many pictures on there that can give you an idea of what aesthetic you want to go for and what type of props you want to go out there and look for, and put your whole idea that you have in your head together on your vendor table. And once you have a cohesive idea and you're ready and you got all your props done and all your products are ready to go, I say go ahead and do a mock-up table before you even do the vendor market itself. That way you can tweak and prod at things that you don't like when you put it together. And also, once you get it finalized, go ahead and take a couple of pictures of it, so that on the day of the market, you can always refer back to that picture and see how you set it up at home for yourself. Okay, so now you have done all of the hard work to get up to this point here, and it is the day of the market, and you want to be prepared. So what helped me in the beginning was making a checklist so that I was organized that day and making sure that nothing was left behind. So I went ahead and went on Canva and I made a simple checklist of things to do the day before and the actual day of the event. And your checklist is going to consist of everything you need for the market. So it's kind of like an inventory list for yourself, and you're going to have things on there like how many displays and what displays you're actually taking with you that day, a list of your products and how much you're taking. For that, I have a separate inventory list just for my products alone, so I know exactly what I'm taking with me. type of payments you are taking. So that can mean your Square reader or your Shopify reader or Cashbox, whatever you're taking payments on. And you want to make sure that these things are already set up before you go to your first vendor market. Other necessities such as your shopping bags, because you want to put your products in a nice shopping bag, or your tent if you need it, or if you really had to get that table and those chairs, your table and chairs, your wagon, and etc. And of course, your essentials that you're going to need, such as pens, lunch for the day, snacks for the day, water for the day, scissors if you need scissors, all the little necessities that you may need, that you think you may need for that market. Now, I always fall on packing, making sure I pack everything the night before. That way, the next day, I don't have much to worry about when it comes to packing. So I pack all my products into their storage bins the night before, and that is a key thing that I want to make sure that I have everything up, because I don't want to be scrambling the morning of, trying to look for things that I want to bring and need for the market. And you want to make sure you get there before time, not exactly on time unless you can't help it, but I say get there before time because two things: it gives you extra time to find your spot and to set up, because you never know how long the line is going to be of vendors coming in at that time. And also, it shows the coordinators there, if they're watching, which more than likely they probably are, that you are someone that's going to be on time, you're showing up, you're present. So it gives them a good feeling of having you at their market. So showing up before time, I feel like it sets an example. It's a good thing. And also, if you're an introvert or you have social anxiety like I do, then it gives you time, some quiet time, to just set up in peace and get your energy ready and well charged for the day of what's to come ahead. And finally, before the doors open up or before the market opens, I say just take a walk around and talk to some people and interact with other vendors. Look and see how they are setting up and what their products are, and just interact with vendors there, because more than likely the vendors that you see at this market are going to be some of the same vendors that you're going to see at other markets throughout the year. So it's a good time to just network a little bit, just get a feel of it, introduce yourself to people. I know it was something that I really had to work on because I am a shy person. I do have my social anxiety that comes up in those moments. So it's a good way to get yourself out there even more and just introduce yourself and your product. So that was a lot. That was a lot to take in. And I hope you all got some well-needed information for those of you that are just getting your feet wet into the market and decided that this is the year that you wanted to do this. I've seen a ton of videos out there about the same topic, and I figured I'd just go a little bit deeper, and I hope I went deep enough for people to really go from point A to point Z on the list there. One thing that I wanted to say before I end this video is to understand and really know how to project the information of your product to the customer, the potential customer that you're speaking with. So this is something that I really want to work on this year. I want to be able to describe my products more. I want to be able to let people know what is in it. Even if it's a couple of fragrance notes here and there, I want to be able to relay that to them so that they understand and connect more with the product. And I want to be able to recommend different products to different people. So before I continue on and on rambling, I am going to close this video out here. I hope you all enjoyed it. I enjoyed sharing some of the things, if not all of the things that I learned while doing markets last year with you all. If you enjoyed it, then go ahead and hit that like button, share, and comment. And I want to hear from some of you who are already in the market space. Just let me know what your experience was like the first time you did markets, or if you have something that you want to share, maybe a story or something that you want to share, just to ease up some of that feeling overwhelmed or scared or anxious for those who come across this video for the first time and have decided to do markets for their small business this year. So comment in the comments down below, and for those of you who are completely done with markets, comment down in the comments below. I want to hear some of you guys' stories out there. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, as well as that notification bell so that you could be notified when the next new video comes out. So with all of that being said, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week. I think I'm really going to do a couple of more settings from this side here because it's a little less cluttered over here, and I gotta figure out my lighting because that light up there, I don't think it works well as far as lighting goes. But I did enjoy sitting over here and just having a little workstation. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week, and don't forget to show yourself a little more appreciation. So until next time, this is Tammy saying, take care, everyone.